We're live.
Well, welcome to the University of Maryland School of Public Health Shots at the Shop show. And what we're going to do today is we're going to have a wonderful conversation. I can't wait to get started. Happy 2022 to you. This is our first show of the year, and we are so excited. You can join us on Facebook Live. Of course, you can go to the Maryland Center for Health Equity or the Instagram at UMD Hair or Twitter at UMD Health Equity. And you can join us there as well. I'm Omar Neal. I'm the host, one of the hosts here today. I'm the former mayor of Tuskegee, Alabama, as well as the host of the You Got the Power talk show. We have a great lineup today with a wonderful subject and topic for today. We're going to be talking about depoliticizing the pandemic, turning to each other, not on each other. And of course, I'm going to introduce my sidekick and co-host. They call him Dr. T, but we know him also in the professional world as Dr. Stephen B. Thomas. Hey, man, how you doing?
Well, Omar, I can't think of a better time to start the new year with you right here in these Hollywood squares, reaching out to people across the country and to recognize that in this space, we've done over 20 shows as we're moving forward. And here we are on January 6th. For so many reasons, this date is important. And tonight, we're going to have a chance of really helping people work through this challenge that Omicron, in particular, and the pandemic in general, has put upon us. This has been our sacred space where we tell it like it is. And I'm looking forward to working with you and the rest of the team moving forward. Let me just say, I want to acknowledge the team in the back making all this technology work and just thank them for making this show go forward. Okay, yeah, Omar.
Thank you
what
so
a
very
topic
much.
We have this time.
Absolutely. But we don't need to let it be lost that this is a special day in another way. Last year on this day, we had an insurrection at our Capitol, and people lost their lives there too. We're talking about people losing their lives to COVID, but there were people who lost their lives there as well. And Dr. T, I think it's appropriate if we just take a moment of silent meditation and reflection of everyone who's lost their lives through COVID, regardless of what year it was, as well as the people who lost their lives and were impacted adversely from what happened on January 6th of last year.
A moment of reflection.
A moment of reflection. Thank you so very much. That's so very important for us to recognize where we are, because we will see, and we are seeing that there is a correlation between hesitancy, politicization, the silos that many people find themselves, and that kind of thing. So what I'm excited about is we got our dean. I mean,
my boss.
My dean is in the house, man. Dean Boris Lusniak. Let's bring Dean up into the Hollywood squares. I want you to introduce the dean for us, Dr. T.
Well, it's how time flies. I was actually honored to be on the search committee that actually led to Dean Lusniak joining the School of Public Health. And as you can see here in the bio, you can all read this and visit on the website the tremendous history and experience he brings to this table. But what this audience needs to know, he's also just a good person.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good person.
Yeah.
And he has really not only helped lead the school, he's helped heal us through this process. And so it's just wonderful, Boris, to have you back with us, and to just take a moment and say hello to our audience out there, and some of your reflections.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Omar. Thanks for those kind words. Stephen, it's
Absolutely.
always a pleasure working with you guys on this. I know it's been a while since I've been on, and I know you've been doing such incredible connectivity with the community. I think starting off today with that moment of reflection, not only looking back a year at the insurrection, but in essence, also remembering that, it was 2 years ago around this time that we began learning about a brand new disease. And we began learning about what we call a novel virus. It was 2 years ago that a small number of people, and I don't use the term cases, the medical people always say, oh, cases. No, these were people. They happen to be people in China, right? In the Wuhan province. It seems so long ago, doesn't it, when we bring up even that terminology? But it was 2 years ago that all of a sudden we began looking at brand new information. And that information was coming from China. And it was little tiny blurbs in the paper, or little mentions in the press saying, well, it seems like something's going on. It seems as if these people are being infected with something brand new. We're still uncertain of where it's going. We have no idea of how it's going to progress, but it started off with a few people. And that was 2 years ago. And we all have now lived through 2 years worth of what? 2 years worth of uncertainty, 2 years worth of the whole spectrum of emotions, right? Going from fear to outrage to realization of the inequities in our world, to death, to sickness. And now 2 years later, where are we at, right? It's good to reflect on the fact that medical science has done incredible things, right? 2 years ago, we didn't even know this virus existed. It was almost 2 years ago to the day, in these next few days, that the whole genetic sequence of this brand new virus was in fact looked at and published. It was out there for the world to see what this virus was made up of. That began a pathway to do what? To start looking at, can we form a vaccine against this, right? It's only been 2 years. 2 years, 365 days times 2, right? Each and every day we wake up with this news, Omar, right? But it's only been less than 1,000 times. It's been 700 plus times. For us, it almost seems like an eternity. Yeah. And I think the key feature, and as we talked about, this concept of depoliticization, right, of the pandemic, it really boils down to what? What is the success of everything that's gone on in these 2 years? Is the realization that it's about the community. It's about community partnerships. It's not just the physicians of the world or the public health people of the world. This is now a potential success story. I'm still looking at it as a success story, provided that we understand that we are all in this together, provided that we understand it's the community that needs to work together, whether it's the barbers, the stylists, the physicians, right? Those staying at home, those who are isolating, those who are quarantining, those who are testing, those who are helping with information on vaccinations. This is all a key component of this. This is a major year for us coming up. 2022, I have this feeling as if we're heading in the right direction.
What's interesting, let me say this.
Go on, Omar. Yeah.
Let me say this. I remember, because I really love your energy, man. You just really, you really have a way of really encapsulating things. But I was recalling that around maybe February, they had a few cases in the United States 2 years ago, right? And then I think Dr. Osterholm made a comment maybe somewhere in March that it would be over 500,000 people to die from this. Man, now think about this. I never fathomed that I mean, that was like so outlandish, outrageous.
They criticized him for it.
I mean, what you talking about? Do you know how many 500,000 people? You only have 5 people died from it. Now you telling me there are going to be 500,000 people die? And now we're over 800,000 people now. And they're projecting that by March, there will be 1 million people to die in this country of COVID-19.
And that's an underestimate.
And that's an underestimate. But the point is, many of them, and we don't know how many, I'm not trying to quantify, right? But many of them, and the vast majority of them did not have to die, particularly because we have a vaccine that is efficacious as well as safe.
But you know, Omar, you put the ball right back at the center of public health. A vaccine, from our basic scientists, does not mean vaccination. And that's been the real frustration. And as we talk about this, Dean Lushniak, the challenge of getting people vaccinated, and an outright army of folks actually promoting the hesitancy. We got to break through that. We think that depoliticalization will help us get there. I want to like who we are on the other side of this.
Yeah, the point of the matter is there are people intentionally spreading disinformation and misinformation, and people are dying. You know, I used the term, Dean, they die because of a lie, right? And while people are lying, people are dying, and that's the sad commentary. What's your thoughts about this? Could you envision us being in this space?
Yeah, you know, again, it's the whole, even if you back up just a year. So let's try to remember where we were a year ago, right? And I kind of like to break this down in bite-sized pieces, because 2 years ago, all this was brand new. However, a year ago, there was all this potential, right, of the world changing for the better in this upcoming year. A year ago, we were at the point of what? The vaccines had been released, right, through this emergency use authorization. So we knew they were brand new. We knew there would be skepticism. We knew people wouldn't necessarily just go in there blindly without asking the questions. People have a right to ask questions about it, right? But a year ago, we just began the program of vaccination. And our hope was that in 2021, that in essence is we would succeed at the vaccination program through what? Through having people ask the questions, for us having the answers, for people believing the answers, and for there being no lying.
There we go.
Right? That there be no lying.
Right.
And so 12 months ago, we were in a world of change, right? At first, let's remember 12 months ago, we were all waiting. Okay, am I considered, to be the next in line for vaccination? Well, there's a shortage. They're still coming up. That's all changed rather quickly, didn't it? And then we got to the point by the springtime where, in essence, there were enough vaccines, maybe not penetrating all the neighborhoods. I mean, we still had the issue of underserved and issues of equity, but we were still getting out there and have the potential, right? By the summertime, do you remember, Omar and Stephen?
Absolutely.
Almost the euphoria in June and May that this thing was over.
The 4th of July was going to be over with, man.
It was
Freedom Day
and beer and freedom from COVID, right?
Posting pictures of folk getting vaccinated.
So, what we've been through, even in the last 12 months is, and then we had Delta, and then we had another Greek letter, Omicron, right? So in the midst of all this, the bottom line, though, Omar, is exactly as you were sort of, saying, is the sense is that part of our future is to make sure that the vaccination program has to get better, has to get more robust. We're now talking about a new generation, right? It's not just vaccination, it's boostering. The Israelis are now doing no longer boostering, they're doing a 4th dose, right? That's semantics, right? It's verbiage. It's changing terminology, but in essence, part of what we have to be ready for is we have to be able to attack the virus aggressively. And that isn't going to happen without having the partnerships that we see, even here on this call.
We're talking about messaging too. How do you take public health information and translate it to where I say down south where the cows can get it, Dean, right? That's going to be so very important. That's why we got our next guest. His name is Ed Gray. Bring him up. Ed Gray is a tremendous motivational speaker. He is the host of Power Minute. He took over for Les Brown with Power Minute 30 years ago now. And he's been on over 100 radio stations, sharing vignettes of powerful insights and information. He is a well-known best-selling author of 40 Days to the Life of Gold. And of course, just many, many, many more things. I could go on and on to a life of gold. It's God ordained life's development. And of course, he's doing so many things. I can't say too much about him because it'll take for the rest of the show. So let me just bring Ed Gray. Hey, Ed, how you doing, man?
I'm excellent, Omar, and thank you for having me among this great distinguished list of panelists and hosts.
Let me say this, Ed. You know, you're in the ministry too, so help me to understand how we got to this place. I know you've kind of looked at it and dissected it. I mean, obviously, it's not trust and distrust in the medical industry is not new, right? So, compounded with all of the not knowing about viruses and how they operate, how they mutate and create variants. We didn't know about that. So we thought that if you did one thing and that's a one-time fit all, right, then you just get one shot and you should be clear, and then you can go walk around and it doesn't matter about the virus any longer because that protects you completely from the virus. And a lot of people felt that way. And now you're going to tell me I got to get one shot, two shots, a booster, and then something else maybe later on. Now, I don't know if you know what you're talking about.
Well, I do know this. Over Christmas, my whole house got COVID. But fortunately, everybody in the house were vaccinated. And my wife, and myself, and my mother-in-law, we also had the booster. So the beauty of the whole thing is that our symptoms were very mild, and we almost didn't know that we had it until we got tested. And what triggered it was my niece having it. But the bottom line is we're alive. And that may not have been the case without having been vaccinated. But you ask, how did we get here? Sun Tzu put it best, and Boris, being a military man, you've probably read The Art of War. He said, all warfare is based on deception, and he'll win who knows how to balk the enemy's plans without having to fight. All of us want to live, but then you have people throwing in FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and causing us to get off focus. And they have their own agendas. But we got to this point of getting away from what our own main goal is, living, through misinformation.
I want to bring both you, Dean, and Ed into this dialogue. We are getting our information from certain media sites, right? And I'm not going to say where, right? And you notice people behavior correlates where they get their information from, right? How we never had anything like this to happen before. Dean, I remember getting vaccinated when I went to school. We didn't even question. I don't know if they told our mothers we were going to get vaccinated. They just lined us up, and we all got, I mean, how did we get here? You need to unmute.
The world has changed, Omar, right? And to a large extent, and it's not necessarily a bad change, right? We have people who do question things much more robustly, right? The reality is that I think to some extent, I have to take the blame as a public health person in the midst of all this, right? which is, do I have a mechanism to be able to get that information out? Now, you saw in my bio that I used to serve as the Deputy U.S. Surgeon General for about 5 years and a year and a half as the acting U.S. Surgeon General. And I used to describe those positions as what? As being a communicator, to take the basic science information that's out there and communicate it, and where necessary, Omar, to translate it to the American public. That was the job, right? So at the end, I needed people, not necessarily to believe me, not necessarily to blindly do what I told them to do, but to understand what I'm trying to say to them and to allow them to question me. And I think what we instead have right now is we have, like it or not, the news media as the major source of information. And there is that lack of connectivity of the trusting source out there, right? And that's why I emphasize the concept of the community, right? It could be the barber, the stylist, it could be the preacher. But I have to get the people that people trust ultimately, to get around, circumvent the media as the major source of information, where a person can say, hey, listen, I trust you. Tell me a little bit more about this.
So it's
Mayor,
not just the
Mayor,
message, it's the messenger as well, is what you're saying.
It's exactly that. I think it's not just a message. We rely for too many unsuccessful campaigns throughout public health history to saying, oh, here's the message. You should understand it, or you should do this blindly because it's just because I'm saying it, right? Surgeon General wears a uniform, right? What a better way to sort of, say command, right? I'll tell you what to do. That doesn't work in the 21st century. I need to set up conversations. And frankly, our society is too busy to have a conversation.
Well,
and that's why people get sick and why people die.
Ed, we talked about this before. You and I have talked about it. You make your friends before you need it. And what the dean is saying, it makes all the sense. You have to have an ongoing dialogue with people. You can't just come in all of a sudden we got a crisis. Now I'm going to tell you, your trust is a calculated risk. It has to be some basis for the trust. And so we need to have an ongoing dialogue, and that's something that we don't have. Is that correct? You unmute, Ed.
That's correct. We're not talking about it people are talking about it, but they're not coming at it from a frame of reference of facts. A good example, I was sharing with you my frustration when I hung up on one of my cousins recently, was telling me the reason he's not getting the vaccine and the reason all of us are crazy for getting it is because it changes your DNA. Well, Matt, where are you getting your information? YouTube.
Yeah.
Mayor, I'm listening to both the dean and Ed talking and recognizing the power of this space for the conversations we need to have. And when you were describing, Ed, that how the vaccine protected you and your family, that story in and of itself could encourage others. But we're running into people who are being criticized for being vaccinated, almost like closeted being vaccinated. And that is also part of the change, Boris, over the past 2 years, this turning on each other. How do we get back to we're all in this together in the common good?
We used to rely on leadership to help us get there, right? And let's talk about politics now, right? The theme today is depoliticization. The reality is that part of the messengers now are not just those sort of, extremes of the media. Part of the messengers right now are our political leaders. And in essence is we've fallen into line, right? We've fallen into who we believe in. And then we close our ears and our eyes to everybody else. There's a good sort of sense that's going on. Even right now, there's been some sense of criticism of the current administration. Let me bring politics into this.
Right.
Which is, the scientists need to speak out a little bit more. And the reason the scientists have been muffled to some extent is, scientists aren't naturally good communicators. And so people got afraid, right? Politicians are good communicators. They talk with the public. They may not know what they're talking about, but they certainly know how to talk with the public. The media, right? All of you guys, Ed and Stephen and Omar, you are, believe it or not, no matter what else you do for your day jobs, you are media people. You know how to talk to the public, right? The problem is we have to be able to get people who understand what's going on, or who have gotten the right translation to be just as enthusiastic as communicators and just as good in the leadership mode. And I think that's the problem. The problem is you listen to who you want to listen to, you believe to who you want to believe to, and you've shut your ears and your eyes to others.
Yeah, I think you hit on a salient point too. You got to have a kind of energy. It cannot be.
You got to be believable.
God, I mean, we're talking about life and death, and we're making it an academic exercise. I mean, come on, we're trying to, what we see what we're doing, Dean and Ed. We see this as saving lives. This is not just a show. I mean, this is infotainment, as Dr. T say. But no, we are literally trying to save lives. And when people like Ed can say, my whole family, my whole household caught COVID, and not one of us died because we were all vaccinated, that makes a difference.
Absolutely.
And that's the story that we need to tell. Can I bring Dr. Ritter up? I have not seen her in a month of Sundays, so we're going to bring her up and hang out. Hey, Dr. Ritter, how are you doing?
I'm great. It's great to be here in the new year. Exciting to start it out on the right foot with you guys. When you hear stories like what Ed shared, that his whole family got it, but they all were able to traverse that storm pretty good because of being protected through the vaccine. What does that make you feel, and does that give you some material that you can use even with your patients to show that people do survive? It doesn't mean that you're not going to get COVID, but the key is to not die from COVID or be severely ill due to COVID. And is that what the message should be? Yeah, we need to have more positive messages. We need to have more success stories, because the media only tells you the bad, right? And with each bad, we have a good. We probably have more good out there, but the media, does spin off the bad. So these good stories that Ed had with his family, those are the ones that we need to focus on in 2022, because we do have more good with the vaccine now. And Omicron is actually increasing our immunity, whether it's good, maybe more people are getting vaccinated, or whether the unvaxxed are getting, Omicron, and they're going to have some kind of immunity. There's a lot we have learned. I have changed my whole focus on the unvaccinated because of this group here, and telling them stories like Ed's story is what they will start listening to when they hear it more and more and more.
So Dr. Ritter, just for context, for the larger audience we have out there, you're a practicing gynecologist, you saw patients, maybe even today, that you're saying that the stories that we've had, the conversations in this space, you've used to change how you interact with your patient population? Did I hear that right?
Absolutely. I mean, because it's really hard not to judge others, anybody who's not like you or doesn't think like you. And I have practiced really hard not to judge my patients. And it's been very difficult during this pandemic when we see the unnecessary deaths. People who are not unvaccinated don't look at it that way. So it's a challenge. I'm very challenged with this pandemic, but challenges are always opportunities to learn. So I've learned a lot from the barbers and the stylists here on the ground, showing me and teaching me a different way of looking at people who think differently.
Yeah. What I want to do is I want to see where we stand. Every week we run the numbers, and we want to see, how many new cases, how many deaths, what's happening out there in the world. And so we're going to bring Meg Jordan on, who's part of our team, to run the numbers for us and kind of give us what the thoughts are. Hey, Meg.
Hey, Mayor Neal, how are you?
Great. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Run the numbers for us.
Okay. So this week, we have not seen you for 2 weeks. So these numbers reflect the number of people who have gotten COVID in the past 2 weeks. 7.7 million people have gotten COVID in the past 2 weeks, and 30,000 people have died of COVID in the past 2 weeks. So in terms of better news, 3.9 million people have gotten fully vaccinated in the past 2 weeks, and 16,000 people have gotten boosters. In general, people are still behind on boosters. If you could show us the full numbers, Sarah. So right now, 74,000 people have gotten boosters in this country, and 205 million people are fully vaccinated.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Meg. That's very important. Dean, when we're talking about deaths now, most of those deaths are preventable. Is that correct? And is that how you see it?
Well, certainly, you know, as Carol had talked about, you know, with specific with Omicron, what do we know about Omicron, right? Don't forget, you know, the other thing I'm going to introduce here, Mayor, is what is the sense of humility into medicine and humility into
I think that's very important to do that.
Into public health, because,
That's why
you
he's a
know,
great dean.
we always like to say, oh, I know what the heck's going on. The reality is we're learning as well. And don't criticize science and medicine and public health, because this is novel. This is brand new. So, you know, the reality is one of the issues has been that throughout these 2+ years now, it's been learning as we're doing to a large extent. And the humility needs to come when, you know, when I do and say something wrong, when I don't, you know, see the future as like, as people would like me to see it. That being said, what do we know about Omicron? Omicron right now is what? It's rampant. It's very, very contagious, right? It spreads very easily. That's part of the reason we're seeing all these numbers across the whole world. The other aspect, it seems to be, in most people, milder in terms of its effect, right? There's some information that says it doesn't get as deeply into the lungs as the Delta variant. It stays up in the nasal passages and the throat. That's a good thing. But back to your question, Mayor, is what? Is who's dying from it? It's still people who are unvaccinated, right? The reality is that although there is this sense of penetration that vaccinated people, yes, I'll be honest, some vaccinated people are getting this, as we saw with Ed's situation. Even boosted people are getting this, but it's not leading to very, very serious illness in those vaccinated people. And if we look at who's right now filling up the hospitals and who right now is filling the intensive care units and who right now, unfortunately, is dying from this disease, it's predominantly the unvaccinated, which leads us to that next scenario, Mayor. It is preventable, because get the darn vaccine and you can prevent death and severe illness.
You know, I want to do a couple of things. I'll bring Mike Dynamite Brown up with us now. I want to talk, as they say, I want to talk at my brother. Hey, Mike Dynamite Brown.
Dale.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Happy birthday, belated birthday. Your birthday
Thank
was
you so
yesterday, right?
Yes, it was. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You turned 50?
Yeah.
Oh, man, you don't look a day over 60. I mean,
I hope you could party like, you probably had to mute your party.
Like it was 1999. I mean, no.
Maybe get on the other side of this, but yeah, a lot of celebrations have been muted. But yes,
we did virtual celebration for him. We appreciate this day because he was born. Hey, man, you know, we're talking about, you know, how do we communicate? You've had so many personal, you know, stories of people that you know who you have been working with to try to get them vaccinated, and one particular passed as a result of it, and you and Fred really, you know, it touched my heart the way you all talked about that, brother. Everybody does not know that story, but I want you to kind of share that story with us as well, because Ed shared the story of he and his whole family getting it. it reached your family as well. But tell that story about the guy who was on the Hell No wall.
Well, that was our friend Lou Henderson. Great guy, awesome guy, full of life, vibrant. 60 years old. He was on the Hell No wall, and he just basically told us hell no every time we tried to get him vaccinated. He celebrated his birthday October 12th. Fred was able to attend. 2 weeks later, he caught COVID. It was like on a Sunday night when he found out he had it. He went to the hospital on Thursday, and he died that Saturday. And it was just that quick. When he got to the hospital, they put him on the ventilator. It brought him back a little bit. He was able to get some air because he couldn't breathe. But then he refused the ventilator because he said everybody that got on the ventilator died. He refused the ventilator and he died. And it was just so tragic. It was a matter of 1 week. And Fred, Dr. T, and I, we were on our way to speak at a conference in Baltimore. And when we got the news, and it was just terrible to get that shocking news like that COVID had wiped out our man like that in 1 week. Right. And so we just use his story to try to convince the still people who are still on the Hell No wall that this is very real. This can definitely be you. Don't be Lou, is what we're saying. Well,
hey man, you know what? This could be you. Don't be Lou. You a poet and don't know it. I mean, you just
hey, Omar, we were literally going on the stage at the Reginald Lewis Museum for African American History in downtown Baltimore, a conference with barbers and stylists from across the city. And they told that story, and it completely changed the atmosphere in the room toward how do we work together. And that's some of that humility that Boris talked about. Some of that humility is acknowledging our own emotion around this. So these brothers had shed tears for Lou.
Right.
And that changed the tone in the entire room toward how do we work together.
Right. Let me bring Dr. Tuesday Cook up. She's not going to be able to hang out with us the entire time, but we certainly want to. She's a regular of our team. Hey, Dr. Cook, how are you doing?
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Neal and everyone. Thank you for allowing me to come and participate with you all.
Yeah, one is tell them a little bit about you before we get started. Dr. Cook has been with us from the beginning.
That's right.
And she is a part of our team, and we are so appreciative of her for what she has done to really enlighten us through this whole process.
And let me just say this for context, both Dr. Ritter and Dr. Tuesday, come to us from MedChi, the Maryland State Medical Society, whether here as individuals, that's how I interacted with them. And they're providing that kind of leadership across the state of Maryland.
Yeah, but
hey,
they're
Dr.
incredible.
Tuesday.
They're incredible.
Doing?
Yeah.
How
hey,
very good.
It's funny because you say that, I'm part of the team, but I almost feel like this is my health equity COVID-19 vaccination family,
Oh, absolutely.
I put it on my calendar. That's how I list it,
Yeah.
And we run the gambit in terms of profession and in terms of knowledge base, but when it comes to goal, we are all of one accord, right? And so that's what's important here, I think, and for what you all continue to do every day, and in these in these sessions every week, we definitely are of one accord. So I'm Tuesday Cook. I'm a minimally invasive foregut and bariatric surgeon, fellowship trained, and I do weight loss surgery for obesity. And we know that obesity is a big health factor when it comes to morbidity and mortality with regards to COVID-19. We know that we are disproportionately affected, people of color across the United States, with obesity and its medical problems. So COVID-19 vaccination and health and prevention is very important to me for my specific patient base, and really and truly because of my concern for health equity for my people and people of color. And so joining these sessions are important to me because I want to make sure that we continue to get the word out even as people who are vaccinated still get COVID, even as, you know, people who have a booster still get COVID. The point to drive home is that it is not meant for people to not get COVID. It is meant for people to not die from COVID. And I'm sure that
Right.
has been addressed already here
Yeah.
multiple times by multiple people. But
Yeah.
that's what's important here for me to bring to the table.
You know, Dean, how you frame the issue determine who embraced the cause. We got to learn how to frame the issue better. And so we can manage expectations, because unmet expectations is where disappointment lie. And if we can do that, then that's the communicating that we need to be able to bring. You know, I want to do a couple of things. Let me bring on Sandra Jenkins. Bring her up. She's one of our stylists, and she has a shop, and they've done what we call shots at the shop. And she did not do one time. They have committed themselves to repeat this process until we get as many people as possible vaccinated. Hey, Sandra, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Holding on.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Tell us
Sandra.
what's going on in your world now.
Oh, well, in my world, I must say that I had the most devastating and heart-wrenching experience last night, having to wait in the emergency ward at our local hospital because of the fact that I had to get tested. I was tested and was tested positive. And right now I am in quarantine for 14 days. However, the doctor did relay that because I did everything that I was supposed to do, you know, I've been boosted, I've been flued, I had every shot that was required. She said, you know, it's that vaccine that's fighting off that virus. So that is why you are in this shape that you are in now. But we're going to send you home with this little monitor here, oxygen monitor, just so that you can, you know, monitor your oxygen levels in the event that, you know, you may need to come back. However, she didn't feel as though that would happen. So I have to say that, you know, right now, you know, I feel a little weak. I have a little mild headache. I have tightness in my chest and a very, very pressure in the sinus area. It just feels like I have a really bad upper respiratory infection.
Yeah.
But however, you know, I'm here tonight, and by all means, we'll continue to fight, you know, to mitigate this virus in our industry as much as I could possibly do.
Let's give Sandra some snaps for you to get well soon.
Absolutely.
And I want
we love you
Ed,
so much. Absolutely.
I want Ed and Boris and the others out there to know that as you introduced her, her shop has actually turned vaccine to vaccinations, Dean, not just one clinic, but multiple clinics. And there's several folks out there where we have really had the shops become trusted information centers. So congratulations, Sandra. Your personal experience can help others, but also what you're learning going through the health system can help us make that better too.
You know, I want to talk about boosters because that, I think, in Dr. Cook, I want to bring you back into this because I know you can't be with us the whole time. The booster shot makes a difference too. So, you know, there are people who are saying, you know, I got the 2 shots, or I got the 1 Johnson & Johnson, or I got 2 Moderna, or the other one, what's it? The Moderna and the what's the other one, Dean?
The Pfizer.
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 Okay. See, thank you, Dr. Brown. I appreciate you. Pfizer. Yeah, I forgot. Okay. Tell us about the booster and the importance of the booster, Dr. Cook.
So the booster is meant to, well, let me start from the beginning. There are several boosters that exist. Pfizer and Moderna are the mRNA-based ones. Johnson & Johnson is a little bit different. And in fact, it's postulated that Johnson & Johnson actually should also have been a 2-dose vaccine like the other two. The booster is meant to kind of wake up your antibodies to being able to fight, to wake up your immune system to being able to fight the COVID-19 vaccine, kind of like make your memory cells come alive and to help you kind of make some more of your defense system to fight off the virus. Now, when you're boosted with the first and the second, when you are immunized with the first and second ones, you have a very good, level of immunity, 94.5%, chance of not dying, which is great. Again, you can still get COVID, but the booster just helps to improve the amount of defense system that you have. It's pretty much
That's your posse. I mean, so when you go to fight and you want to go fighting by yourself, I'm gonna go take my posse with me, right?
Correct,
So,
correct.
that's you
And
go
garner
in.
more people and get more
That's
people
right.
on your side.
And if you're not vaccinated, it's like being in a pitchfork fight and you the only one don't have one, right?
If you're not vaccinated, that's when you end up in the hospital on the vent. And one of my best friends who was in my wedding, her father just died this morning from COVID-19. And
Wow.
I'm actually gonna have to, I gotta get back to work and then I have to give her a call because it's it's to be plain and simple, it's not a joke out in these streets. It's not.
Yeah, it's
real.
It's real.
It's real.
And my condolences go to your friend, her family, and you.
Yes.
Because we all are getting this experience, either direct or indirect. We all are feeling it. When Sandra's talked about her, my heart dropped.
Yes.
Because the way we feel about her, she knows we have made it emphatically clear how much we love Sandra. And so to hear that, but we feel more confident because we know that she's been vaccinated and boosted, and
Yes.
that the likelihood of her surviving this is much greater.
Indeed.
And so there's a comfort for us because we know her status, right? And that's so very, very important for that. All right. So any closing comments? How long are you gonna hang out? You say you got to go back. You working?
You on call tonight?
So I'm not on call, but I'm on call pretty much every night because I'm only bariatric surgeon for the hospital.
Okay. So you're being here with us. The clarity by which you make your points resonate with everyone. And so we are so appreciative to you, Dr. Tuesday Cook, that you can be with us regardless of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
And Dr. Cook, you should know that in the times that you haven't been here in the squares,
we miss you.
You have still been here.
Right, because we talk about you all the time.
Right. I miss you all too. Trust me. That's why, as much as I can be here, I definitely want to be here. Because again, it's good to continue to be consistent, to keep getting the word out. It is exhausting, but it's work that has to be done.
Right.
So I appreciate being able to help do it.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate you so much. So you can let us know when you want to part, but you can do that at any point that you feel comfortable. Okay. Ed, let me bring you into this, and you too, Dean. The Black people, and to give us the numbers, Dr. T, we were like in the teens in terms of vaccination at one juncture. And then we went up equal to Caucasians and other ethnic groups into the 70 percentile, right? And that took a whole lot of work to do. But go ahead. What I was thinking is that I think that sometimes, and Dean, I think you may have hit on this. I think sometimes we spike the ball too soon, where we think that everything's okay, so we don't continue the conversation. And I think that's the failing we had. And so now we got to come up with boosters. Now we got to reboot the conversation about boosters, right? And the people who were hesitant before now have fodder to say, you see, they don't know what they're talking about, right? Or you're gonna have to boost forever or whatever. We have to be able to have a better communication, a better relationship. Maybe that's better with the public. Ed, talk about how we do that. And Dean, I want you to help chime in.
Well, I mean, wisdom, your repetition is the mother of wisdom. So, and we stepped into the unknown. So we don't know what to expect. So if we find that we have to have another booster, then we just have to make a decision. Do I want to risk getting COVID? Do I want to increase my risk of dying? Do I want to increase my risk of killing somebody else by passing it on? So we have to do whatever it takes to stay alive.
Right. That's so profound. Repetition is the mother of what?
The mother word of wisdom.
The mother word of wisdom. That's somebody grandmama taught him that.
so you think about that wisdom as you went through that chronology, Omar, where the African American community was a very small percentage, and then as we move forward, it made the front pages of the New York Times when that disparity gap closed. But it was just a little 2-day, 3-day news cycle. So we also have to celebrate the victories along the way. And a big part of closing that gap, Mayor, you were part of by helping to recontextualize the Tuskegee syphilis study as something not to be used as an excuse.
The United States Public Health Service done in Tuskegee, not the Tuskegee syphilis study. Dean, I've been talking to him about that. That's the 1500th time I made that statement, though.
But that change made the difference. Don't use that as your excuse.
Right.
But we've got to repeat that message again and again now as we move into boosters. And I think that we may find ourselves on some annual basis still engaged with trying to grapple and live with this. So the infrastructure we're creating, we should not just dismantle like we dismantle an arena. So Dean, that's the public health side of the equation, to keep the vaccinations going. And that means keeping these partnerships in place.
That's right.
I think that's a key feature. And Dr. T, you hit, as you always do, the nail right on the head here. The reality is also, going back to what the mayor said, is part of it is what are the expectations of our society, right? Mm-hmm. And I think early on, we were all kind of hoping, okay, we can stop this thing, right? We can stop it in its tracks. We're now 2 years in. And I think Tuesday and Carol, the medical side of the house, as well as all of you who are involved in the partnerships and the public health side of the house, will all agree that we're now entering a stage where we're talking much more openly about the future. And the future could be, we're going to have to figure out a way to live with this, right? Not to die with this, but to live with this. And there's going to be transitions that are going to be going on, and maybe we'll hit some more variants along the way, but we're well beyond this idea that somehow I can promise you by July 4th, it's going to be over. That ain't happening, folks. That's not the future. The future is now more so of, let's look at your expectations. Let's continue working and living and going to school, but at the same time, protecting ourselves, our loved ones, our community, our nation, our globe, right? There's a path.
Right. We talked about it. Dr. T mentioned it. He said that this may be an endemic situation. We went from a pandemic to it being endemic, which means that we do have to live with it, as we do with the flu and other things that come up every year, and different variants are created. And that's why we have different flu shots every year. Right. So that may be our reality. Go ahead, Dr. T.
Well, we're back to the theme of our talk today. If it's endemic, and the very things that will save us are things like having good and better respiratory protection. That's the other message. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later in our show tonight. But also to, again, make sure that these relationships stay in place. And I'm concerned that we keep trying to spike the ball. Right. How do we make this pivot to living with it in a way that doesn't completely disrupt our society? So right now we have people going back to work. We have patchworks around the country, and there's still a real concern about overwhelming our healthcare system. And so we're not out of the woods yet from everything I'm hearing, but we do have a way forward.
Yeah. Let me bring up Dr. Francesca Weeks. If you could put your your microphone and your camera on. I'll bring up Dr. Weeks. How you doing, Dr. Weeks? How you doing today?
Normally, I would say I am doing great, but it has been a really rough week.
Talk to me about it.
Dr. T knows a little bit. So I work in the communities in Baltimore. I'm the African American strategy consultant for the Baltimore City Health Department around COVID. And I work with a lot of our leaders. I work in the community with on other health issues with a lot of our leaders, our community organizations. This week, we lost a giant. We lost somebody who's a great mentor, a great leader in Baltimore, the Reverend Dr. Boyer Freeman. He actually ran St. Mark's Church here in Baltimore City, held clinics at his church. He was vaccinated, he was boosted, but in the past 3 years, he's had a kidney transplant, a couple other small surgeries. So he was immunocompromised and he caught COVID and he was gone within a week. And so we lost him this past Monday.
Wow.
And what people aren't understanding is we're still in this. And there's just some people, no matter what they do, no matter if they get vaccinated, booster, their body just can't fight this. And it's on us that who can get vaccinated, who can social distance, who can be as many preventive measures as possible. We should try to protect those who have come before us, who have led the way.
Yeah.
So we took a big blow this week here in Baltimore.
Well,
So
let me again express our condolences to you and to all the people in Baltimore and everyone who knew him. I mean, obviously his impact was great, and we do know that there are people who are dying from this who are boosted and who are vaccinated, but we are technically doing a cost-benefit analysis. We want to put ourselves in position to live. And the best way to do that, this is what I have come to, Dean, at first I was saying, check your doctors and all of that. And I still say that, but I'm saying based on what I have experienced and what I have come to know based on these conversations, please get vaccinated if you're not vaccinated. Particularly if you've not had any shots, if you are unvaccinated, because you are not protected at all. At least try to protect yourself. That's so critically important. I want to talk a little bit about mitigation. Go ahead, Ed. You want to make a point?
I just was thinking, and you raised an interesting point, Dr. Weeks, and I think one of the challenges within society is that we're so selfish and everybody thinks about me and my rights. But how would you feel if unknowingly you passed on something to somebody that was immune compromised and you were responsible for their death? It's time for us to take the focus off of ourselves and be considerate of other people. It's not about us. It's about the whole society.
I'm glad you raised that. Dean, help me out with this. The difference between public health and medicine. Can you differentiate? Because I think people say, this is my body. I do what I want to do with it. That's medicine, right? You can choose what course of treatment you're going to go through when it's not, transmissible, right? But when it comes to public health, that's a different thing. Help people differentiate between the two.
Yeah, I think it's sort of almost too simply done in that, I'm a physician as well, right? And in that role of medicine, right, I always view it, and this is a simplification, but it gives you sort of the metaphor of it. The relationship I have as a physician with a patient is medicine, right? We work together to try to provide what? Information, where necessary diagnosis, where necessary treatment.
Somehow you froze up. That's a great pose, though. I mean, I'm liking the pose now.
Medicines, etc.
Okay, now we're back. Okay,
but the reality, right? But the reality is what? The reality is that in medicine, the patient is the person that I'm interacting with. In public health, the population is the patient, right? And now we have that sense of, okay, and that's where it gets actually a little bit more difficult, because now you get politics thrown in, right? The patients, the population may not be ready for, at all levels, for the information, right? There may have to be more time spent with health communication, with the concepts of health literacy. But that's really the big difference, right? The big difference is now we're dealing with the patient is the population, or the population is the patient. And so therefore, we have to take bigger approaches. The impact is also bigger. Obviously, if I'm dealing with an individual and that person has hypertension, and we're trying to make sure that person doesn't develop bad things as a result of that hypertension, that's important to that person. Population, however, now deals with the community, with everyone.
All right, bring Dr. Sharon Cooper up. I want to hang out with her a second.
And
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year. How are things going with you?
Like everyone else has mentioned today, either you are infected or affected by this.
Wow.
And, like others, we've had family members to be diagnosed, one of which was my granddaughter. And she just recently had a baby, 5 months. So, you think in terms of, wow, has this infection spread to the great granddaughter, or is it isolated to my, granddaughter? So those are the kind of things you thank God she's doing well, but because of misinformation and other things, I don't know how I was not able to get to her. She lives in Kentucky with her husband. She went by information basically on the internet indicating blood clots associated with, vaccination. So that's, again, we go back to that misinformation. And like you mentioned earlier, Mayor Neal, it misguides people. And as a result, it could, be catastrophic. She's gone through the dreaded headaches, respiratory challenges, but thank God she's on the road to recovery, and our great granddaughter seems to be doing well as well.
Now, Sharon, did you ever imagine that you would be called on as the person, the go-to person in the family when it comes to a health issue like this?
Not at all. Not at all.
Are you prepared? Has this helped prepare you for what has come your way?
Instrumental, because again, through this spirit of unity and collaboration, I know through sitting through these meetings, the source of information and how to present it. And what I don't know, where to direct people. And because we're a family that doesn't live in one geographical area, you have people in, Texas, Kentucky, Georgia, all across the nation, but being in a position to be able to act as a resource and being able to know where or possibly where they can go to be connected to the appropriate setting for the appropriate care at the appropriate time. That is the key. And these meetings have been instrumental in bringing about that particular change and being positioned or postured to do so.
Well, we certainly pray for your family member full recovery, and that hopefully we can use stories like this. And this is another thing that I talked about before, is that we need to promote our protection. I think many of us who have been vaccinated don't do enough. And I'm speaking even of myself, to talk about that I've been vaccinated. I have both my original shots as well as my booster shot. And I'm in tune with what I need to do to even do more to protect myself and my family. And I think Ed made a salient point when he said that it's not just what will happen to me, but it was what will happen to someone else if I catch or contract COVID and then give it to them, even unwittingly, and they go somewhere and die. And I don't know that I contributed to that. That's going to be something. We're going to show you how that can happen. But before we do any of that, I want to bring up what Dr. T called a short hair queen. I mean, I'm not going to say that. That's what Dr. T says. Katrina Randolph, let's bring her up. How you doing?
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Doing wonderful. How are you doing? Happy New Year.
I'm great. Listening for Happy New Year to you all too.
Good. Now you have been really instrumental in getting your client base as well as the people who work in your shop vaccinated. When you're hearing cases like this, what does that give you even more resolve to continue to get people vaccinated and to continue to share the message?
Absolutely. But when I listen to conversations like these, I'm like, wow, it makes me feel like I'm on an emotional roller coaster. And the reason I say that is because we advocate in our community so much to help fight against COVID-19. But then when you hear stories like these, it's like, wow. Because over the whole holiday season, my husband and my son had tested positive for COVID, but thank God they were vaccinated, so they didn't have but minor symptoms. But I have a really close girlfriend of mine that lost a brother during the holiday season. He had just came home from being incarcerated for over 6 years. Went to see all of his family members over the weekend. He may have been released on a Friday. He was vaccinated, went to see his family members. By that Sunday, his nephew and 2 of his brothers had tested positive for COVID. By that Monday, he was on a ventilator. 7 days later, he was pronounced dead of COVID. So, it's kind of emotional when you try to advocate for something and people make decisions based on whether it's religious backgrounds or whatever the reason may be. But like they said, you got to take responsibility because it's not just about you. So now we're dealing with Vern, her brother, and it's very emotional for them because they hadn't seen him in over 10 years. So to lose him in less than a week from coming home from being incarcerated for such a long time, it was so disheartening for us. So we've been dealing with a lot over the last 2 weeks, and I definitely miss these calls because these calls are definitely, they give you hope, listen and being informed and being able to share this information with others. But then you have those times where you try to advocate where people just don't want to hear it because they the naysayers of being vaccinated. Like I said, whether it's your religious background or whatever it is, but it's so disheartening to lose your brother in like 7 days of being home from being incarcerated for such a long time. So I just been going through in the last couple of weeks. Like I said, I feel like I'm on an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing again. And I continue to, say this. My condolences go out to your friend and her family and to you for the loss. And we have to continue to understand and empathize with people because there are people who are really going through it. We do know that when we had Thanksgiving, we saw in December a lot of people who transitioned not from December, but what happened in Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving dinner. We do know that Christmas came, and we've not seen the impact of the people who came together for Christmas yet. New Year's has come, and we don't see the impact of that as of yet. And so we recognize that there are a lot of people who are not using public health mitigation measures such as masking properly, even when you are vaccinated, when you're in spaces where people are not, where you don't know the status of people, it's probably a good idea to wear a mask. And can we put up that
So just before
go ahead,
Dr. Cook
Cook
departs, go ahead, Dr. Cook.
Yeah, and one other point I just want to make very quickly, I don't want to hold anybody up, but one other point I want to make is that I don't think people also understand the trickle-down effect that not being vaccinated leads to. Right now, my hospital and our hospital system, system-wide, and other hospital systems across the US have closed the operating rooms to operating room cases for patients that need to stay in the hospital for more than 23 hours. Now, those are people who have severe abdominal pain, who need some kind of operation, who may need a goiter removed, who may need, the cancer operations are still going, but even those have to be kind of partitioned out and, placed on the schedule in different ways. So because our hospitals are so overrun with people who are unvaccinated and getting sicker, we can't take care of the things that we're used to taking care of on a daily basis.
Right.
So it trickles down to things that we know we could save lives or improve lives and quality of lives and health, and we can't do that because of being overrun by other things. I just want to make sure that point is out there and very clear, because it doesn't only affect the people who are COVID positive and dying, but it affects the people who could have good treatment for their health and be well and can't get into the hospital because of the other draw on the healthcare system.
And there are a lot of people who are delaying going to the hospital for things because of COVID. Their illness is getting more severe because they are not taking care of it early. We know that early detection always brings about greater outcomes or better outcomes. And so there's a rippling effect to this. And I think we need to take all of that into consideration. So I appreciate your raising that issue, because that's a salient point that needs to be put in the context of what we're talking about.
And maybe we'll devote a show to that, because that's what's affecting the entire healthcare infrastructure. And we're wondering, Dean, how we, whatever lessons we take forward, and I'm hoping, Dr. Tuesday, you're seeing the leadership recognize we can't go forward as business as usual.
Yeah, I think that's part of the lesson learned is how do we change from all this, right? Gone are the terms of saying, oh, we're somehow going to return to normal, as if normal was good before all this happened, right? The reality, and I hate that term, the new normal, because that only gives this sense of, even it's quite a confusing term. The reality is we have to go through change, and we have to, as we evolve into new periods with this disease, we have to figure out what works for us, right? Even if we look at this Hollywood Squares, Dr. T and Mayor of this group, right? What you have done of bringing people together, right? And infiltrating our neighborhood in a positive way. That's a lesson learned, which is, even when COVID gets better, that doesn't mean that we don't have new challenges that can make our society better. There's so much public health stuff going on out there that we can really focus on, right? What's killing our people? What's making them ill? What's breaking the system each and every day that doesn't make the news?
Right. You're absolutely correct. Dorothy Reynolds, if you could bring her up, I'd like to talk with her. She's in Arkansas. The Dr. T, just don't try to say where she's.
I won't, but I want Ed and Dean Lusignac to know how we have brought people together from all across the United States. Hey, Dorothy, how things going?
Hi, how are you? I'm
Wonderful.
fine. How are you all?
Tell them what's going on in Arkansas.
Well, we conducted 2 clinics, December 11th and December 18th. We have met with the Salvation Army and the Women's Shelter in Pine Bluff, and they've asked us if we would do another clinic, because they couldn't. The second day that we did it, it rained so hard. And we couldn't get everybody in, so we're thinking about it right now.
It's already thought about. Do it. What they say, Nike say, what Nike say, Dean, just do it. Is that what it is? Go ahead.
Yeah. Miss Reynolds, I'm remembering you from the very first time we talked when you did your first one, and now you're talking like a champion. You're a wellness warrior out there.
Absolutely. We're so proud of you. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Dorothy,
Hey,
so
Omar.
you're down there in the Little Rock area with our friend Broadway Joe Booker.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
Omar, we got to get a pulse beat. We can keep talking, but we got to get a pulse beat for 2022 in our word cloud.
Yeah, let's do that. Dr. T, tee it up. Now you think about it. Dr. T, tee it up. Got it.
Now,
Go
some of
ahead.
you know the drill, but for the next moment, just think of the word that best describes how you're feeling right now in this moment in the pandemic, and just type it into the chat. And those out there on Facebook, use your Q&A, and just one word at a time, just as many words as you can think of. And we have people in the background that will help build that cloud. So let's keep this conversation going.
Yes, just tell us what you're thinking and what you're feeling right now. What you're feeling. Don't overthink it. Just tell us right now what word best describe what you're feeling at this juncture. Now, one thing that I wanted to do, we talked about it. I don't want to go beyond it because we need to do things like teaching people how to wear masks. We tell people, we give them something and we give them no instructions. They say wear a mask, and then we have people talking. They bring the mask down to talk, right? And so we need to have a ongoing campaign on masking the masses, right? Dean, what about that? You like that?
You know, we've been at it for you know, a year and a half when masks got really serious. And, you know, we're not much better than we were at the beginning, are we? Right. You know, and, you know, if anything, to our listeners out there today, just realize that there really has been a major transition. And specifically the cloth stuff that we're all sewing and making and buying doesn't make the cut anymore.
So Dean, we want to set this up for you. Put a pin right there.
Yeah.
We're going to have a public health minute, and Meg, bring up the graphic on what is the difference. Here's the question, even before you bring it up for everybody out there. How much time do you think it takes to be in a space where someone is infected for you to become infected based on the kind of mask you wear?
Wow. Meg,
so what you're looking at, and we're gonna have Meg walk us through this. This is why we need to be talking about respiratory protection, not just masks. They're not all equal.
That's right. That's it. So you can have a mask that's so porous that it's really not even protecting you, right?
That's right. So Meg, walk us through this chart here.
Yeah, absolutely. So this chart here, what this means, picture this. You are in a room with somebody else and they have COVID. How long would it take to pass COVID between you with different types of masks? What kind of mask are they wearing? What kind of mask are you wearing? So if you both are wearing nothing at all, it takes only about 15 minutes to pass COVID between you. It can be faster than that, but it takes about 15 minutes. If you are wearing cloth masks, both of you, it would take 27 minutes to pass in between you. So like Dean Lushniak said, not much better. And then if you're both wearing surgical masks and you've both got them over your nose, like Mayor Neal said, you both got them on, it would take you an hour to pass it between you. Because while these are a lot better than the cloth masks, they fit a lot better, they still have gapping on the sides. If you are both wearing an N95 mask properly, it would take 25 hours to spread COVID in between you. And so that's the difference.
Wow.
The difference between a good mask and nothing at all is that much time.
It could be a life.
No, that's the difference in life and death. Take us back to the squares. Dean, do you see why we should have masks readily available, N95 masks readily available for the population now? Do you see the difference? Because we've told people that as long as you have some covering over your face, then you're protected. And probably the reason why we're getting so many people who are getting infected is because they're not protecting themselves through masking properly and the public health mitigation measures that you all put out.
Right. And again, you know, that chart was beautiful. Meg did a great job in explaining it, but that didn't happen overnight, right? That's 2 years worth of information. to a large extent, right? And us understanding the difference between the initial strains and the Omicron strain, and also changing parts of our society, right? Initially, don't forget, in those first few months, even the Surgeon General of the United States was saying, don't wear masks, people, don't wear masks. Do you remember that? It's not that he was wrong. It's just that at that time, we had limited information, and we were deathly afraid that the N95s were going to go into such shortages that the medical people who were there in the front lines, the Carols and others of the world, right, wouldn't have that protection in the workplace. We then went into this idea of, okay, well, put something over your face, right? And that's where you started sewing your own. Now we're at a point where, you know, at least we're being told that the masks are more readily available, and you're absolutely right, Mayor. It's now a shift, which is let's re-establish this idea of what are the right masks to wear and how do you wear them correctly. Those are life-saving endeavors.
And Omar, if we do that kind of public health mitigation, we can get back to work. So any of our stylists and barbers out there know how long it takes to do a work day or to do a client. And so that will help you along the way. If we want to get people back to work, we have to get them in good respiratory protection, not just a mask.
Yeah, let me introduce the man on the streets, Sherlock Holmes. Chris Sherlock Holmes. His name is Chris Sherlock. I've given him his nickname that he's going to have to go to the courthouse and permanently adopt.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, man, how you doing, fella?
How's everybody doing? Happy New Year to everyone. Nice to see everyone.
Good, good.
It seems like a whole.
Do a little thumbnail. Tell them who you are, Chris.
Okay, so yeah, I have the privilege of working underneath Dr. Thomas here for the Maryland branch, going out and recruiting barbers and stylists in Prince George's County, Montgomery County, and Baltimore City. Basically, just informing them of trying to relieve some of the hesitancies as they turn in heads, hopefully able to turn some ears in the chair as well, and just relieve some of this mis and disinformation that's going around the community. It seems like an entire year has passed since the last time we met. Just the speed of things have gone in blitz turbo mode, and the war is at our front door. It was in the backyard on the side, but when I'm getting a call from my mother saying that my sister, her fiance, my niece, my nephew, people who are really close, you know, a couple of months ago was a cousin or uncle in a different state. Now it's people that we are living elbow to elbow next to. So I've heard the question going around, what can we do? The approach I've started to take was don't criticize, improvise. And we have to be able to pivot very quickly when we are faced with individuals that have some kind of information from wherever they get it from. And we have to be able to make something for them, and an insult or a harsh word is not going to make them any closer, any more comfortable. To getting vaccinated. What I'm really am proud of are individuals that are walking testimonies, like Mr. Gray, like our very own Sandra Jenkins. If you all are not walking billboards for vaccine hesitancy, I don't know what is. You all,
that's right.
If Miss Jenkins has not said what she's going through, from the way that she sounds, from the way that she looks, we would not be able to tell. So that's walking proof that this stuff works. I look at these boosters, and I know we're at the end, and I don't want to be long-winded.
No, you know what? I'm gonna make you a preacher because you have hey Ed, can you ordain him today? Because he always tell me I'm not gonna be long-winded.
I promise you I won't. I'll follow my father's
okay, well, I'm gonna let you just finish this last thing because we gonna ordain you. So you don't get bootleg, to be no bootleg preacher. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, we're real deal, all genuality over here. I've had a lot of questions. I've had a privilege. I'm fortunate to see the numbers go from the testing sites go from 40 people getting tested to maybe 1,200 people a day getting tested. So
Mhm.
what that shows me is that there's a plant of doubt of seeds in these people's heads that this is real. So people are taking it seriously because they're going to get tested. There's a national shortage on home testing. So people are starting to take it serious. And as I tell everyone, don't just stop at the vaccine. Update your software. Just like we update our Norton's antivirus and you get a message saying your software is outdated, update your definitions. That booster updates your definitions. It keeps you up to date with the latest and the greatest. If you get behind and you miss the booster, then biologically you have to wait. So you got to keep up with it. You have to
Can we
keep
get
your-
the latter part of the sermon the next time,
Hey,
Pastor?
Thank you for the time. I appreciate you.
I love you, man.
Thank you.
Hey, that cloud's ready.
Let's look at the cloud. Thank you. You know, and this is you're meeting the team.
Yeah.
Let's look at the cloud to see what people say. Blessed. And the larger the word is, the more people have put that word in. And look, Dean, at the word that's the most dominant, determined, blessed. And then of course we know we got anxiety and we know we got frustration and people are humbled and emotional and still and caring and counting and blessing and pushing and exhausted and empowered and united and schooled and of course they here you see here justice and encouraged and committed and updated. All of these things, weary for some people, dedicated as well as challenged. But those are the when you capsulate in all of the people who have put in information, it gives us kind of a snapshot of how we feel collectively. And the thing that's about it, you can take that down now. The thing that's about it is that we are collective, and it's that community, and we don't even use herd immunity. We say community immunity because we want to focus on building community, and community is two words: common unity, right? That we are connected. I feel your pain. Whatever you're going through, I feel it because I'm a part of you and you're a part of me and we're part of each other. And it doesn't matter of our political affiliations because we talked about it. That was the theme of the program: depoliticizing the pandemic, turning to each other, not on each other. Well, this is what we are doing. This is an example of turning to each other and not on each other. And Chris was correct. We cannot shame and blame. We can't. I know it's frustrating to tell the same people to get vaccinated, and you talking to other people in the family, or seeing other people in the family dying, and then you have somebody who's not vaccinated still with no reason listening to Pookie rather than Dr. Cook, right? You know, I mean, come on. We know that this is frustrating, but we cannot get weary in well-doing. And that's going to be critically important. We got 2 minutes left.
Mr. Mayor, can you believe how this
2
time
minutes
has flown?
Hold up, I got to do something. Let me do this, because if I don't at least show them, bring Andre up just to say hello. Andre, say hello and goodbye. All right. You know, and that's gonna be it. Hello, goodbye.
Hello, goodbye. It's
Andre.
great to be a united front with people. The people only give you 2 minutes and then 30 seconds. Yeah.
How's Hotlanta?
Well, we have so much fun. I promise you. This is just we can't do this all the time. Stacey Ingram, Stacey, we normally have more time, but we got into it a lot better. Say hello, Stacey, to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Tell them where you are, Stacey.
I'm in Philadelphia with Corona.
You got Corona?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Oh, boy, it's come home.
Oh, it's coming home. It's coming home. Oh, wow. And you had a situation where a great friend of yours was in great health to die from Corona as well. And he's thought that his natural immune system was going to protect him, and it didn't.
Yes.
And that's a huge blow for us.
Let's give a shout out to Hairport real quick.
Yeah, Hairport. Hey, how you doing?
Hello, everyone. It's Michelle. Happy New Year.
Hey, where are you?
Year.
Where are you?
Tell
I'm
people where
in
you.
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay. Omar,
Nice
can you
to see
believe we
everybody.
got 60 seconds to
We
get
love
out
you.
of here?
And 60 seconds left. Okay. I only have a minute. 60 seconds in it. It was forced upon me. I couldn't refuse it. I didn't seek it. I didn't choose it. But it's up to me to use it. Suffer if I abuse it. Give account if I lose it. Just a 60-second minute. But an eternity is wrapped up in it. And so, as always, to all of you, please, 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 please go and get vaccinated. Make sure if you're vaccinated, get your booster. Wear your mask so that you can mitigate this virus, so we can protect each other. Let's take care of each other because we owe it to each other. And as always, I'd like to leave you with this perfect love, with these two words. Remember that I love you with a perfect love. But more importantly, remember this: you got the power. Until next week, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.